Hello, my friends. In this video, I'm going to do something maybe a little bit unusual. I'm going to explain to you in very simple, clear, succinct psychological terms how and why you are God. And this is especially a love letter to my Christian friends out there. I've never identified as a Christian. In fact, I left home when I was 15 to go to India seeking enlightenment. But my whole extended family are Christians. I've got Jesuit priests on one side, and on the other side, we have Quaker ministers. Quakers are this really cool kind of Christian. They're the ones who started the abolitionist movement back in the 1600s that eventually made slavery illegal. So yeah, I'm going to explain why you are God. And if that's a hard pill to swallow for you at this moment, let's try an easier way of putting it. Let's say that you can merge yourself, merge your consciousness into the consciousness of God. I'll explain in simple terms why that's possible. What do I mean by God? By God, I'm talking about, so let's imagine for a moment that the entire universe is permeated by a single divine consciousness. This is what it means when they say that God is omnipresent. His body, or her body, I don't really think that God has a gender, but its body is not maybe omnipresent, if it even has a single body. I don't know if it does. I've never experienced that. But there's something about God that permeates the entire universe. And what I do know about that is that it's the awareness of God. It is the consciousness of God. I know that because I've seen it, experienced it directly over and over and over. There is this consciousness permeating everything, and that consciousness is in everything. But what I'm calling God is the level of that consciousness that is aware of everything all at once. And that level of consciousness, as I experienced it, is infinitely loving and infinitely good and infinitely aware and infinitely powerful. And so if you can't even imagine that you are that consciousness that I'm talking about right now, then we can baby step our way there by saying you have the ability to merge your consciousness into that greater consciousness. And I'm going to explain exactly why. And the crazy thing for me is that I just learned that there is an entire group of Christians who already believe that. They're called Eastern Orthodox Christians. They're one of the oldest denominations of Christianity. There's another group called Eastern Catholics who believe the same thing. And they're different from like regular Catholics. They're like their own little group. But both of those denominations, and apparently they make up about 12% of Christians, there's millions of them, they believe that a human being can merge into God by renouncing the ego and merging their awareness into God's awareness. They actually believe that's the highest goal of a human lifetime. And as someone who went to India as a teenager, that's crazy to me because that's exactly what Hinduism is all about, and Buddhism is all about, and to a certain extent Taoism. And actually, this is what mystics in all these different traditions have been talking about. There's Muslim mystics who've talked about this. There's Jewish mystics who've talked about this. And they're all over the world, in fact. I'm going to explain, and it's not going to take very long. It'll only take a minute or two, how you are God. So let's go back to that awareness that permeates all things. God is omnipresent, right? Christians believe that already. So if God is omnipresent, then that means God is inside of us. It's not a poem. It's not a love song. This divine awareness is inside of us right now. And we can know that awareness. And how do we know things? We know things with our awareness, right? I might look at this couch and I know, oh, this is a couch. I see this couch. It's brown. I know that with my awareness. But when we know God's awareness, it's different, because knowing some other awareness with our own awareness, something strange happens when we do that. When we make contact with that divine awareness, our awareness merges with God's awareness. Because knowing awareness is different from knowing a regular object like a couch. When we know awareness with our awareness, it's like pouring water into water. They're the same thing. And so they don't really remain separate. They become one. So that's how we can merge our awareness into God's awareness. But here's the thing. When we merge our awareness into God's awareness, what we discover is that it was already merged. I've been emotional lately. Sorry, guys. When we merge our awareness into God's awareness, we find that the awareness is the same. And the reason why that's true is because God's awareness permeates all things. All things are God's awareness. God's awareness, we could say, is streaming into the universe as the universe. Another way of saying that that's more easy to understand is God is dreaming a universe. And what are dreams made out of? They're made out of our own consciousness. Dreams are made out of our own consciousness. So this universe is made out of God's consciousness. All things are God's consciousness already. When we turn our attention away from the dream and back onto the awareness inside of us, we find that the awareness inside of us is coming from God. God is the awareness in all beings. So you are God. I'm not talking about your ego. The belief system and the feeling that you have in a body that you are a human being. We could call that your ego. The part of you that believes you're separate, you're a male or female, you are a certain skin color, a certain economic status, a certain whatever. I'm not talking about that being the God in you, because that's actually not who you really are. That's a realization that would come to you if you turn inside and seek the source of your own awareness. You realize when you do that, that you are actually awareness vastly more than you are your ego. Your ego is like on the very surface of you, and your awareness is your core. And so when you turn inside and you find your core, you realize, oh, I'm not the ego. And then you realize that your core, your awareness, is coming directly from God, and it is God. Just like the light coming in this window is the sun. It is the body of the sun. The light in this room is sunlight. It is the sun. In the same way, the awareness in you is coming from this brilliant core of consciousness that is God. and it is God. That's why you are God. The only thing to watch out for is if we turn that into a belief and our ego goes, oh, I'm God. I get to act like I'm God, and maybe I can steal that person's money because I created it. I'm God, and I can do whatever I want and treat anyone the way I want, and I can walk off a cliff and I'll be fine and all that stuff. We still have to respect the levels. There's the physical level, emotional level, there's a relationship levels of public and friends, and then a spouse and children. Like there's these different levels, right? We still have to respect the levels and treat each level according to its system of rules, of healthy rules. I remember one spiritual teacher saying that when she first got enlightened, all she ate for a year was cinnamon toast, because that's what she really loved. That was her favorite food. And she thought, everything is God. I'm just going to eat cinnamon toast every single day. And she got sick. So everything is God, and we have to respect the levels. You are God, but respect the levels.